Welcome to the Visual COBOL in a Nutshell series of presentations. This module will cover the topic of installing and licensing the Visual COBOL product on Windows. Installation is a three-step process. If you do not currently have the Visual COBOL software installation package available to you, then please watch the Visual COBOL in a Nutshell presentation entitled Getting the Visual COBOL Product, which covers step 1 of the process, ordering and downloading the software that you require. After downloading the required software, you can move on to step 2, installing the Visual COBOL product. Following on from the previous instructions, you will have an installer package with a name similar to the one shown here. This is a full installer which contains all prerequisites, including the Visual Studio shell if required. The Visual COBOL for Eclipse product includes the Eclipse IDE as well. To install, simply run the installer file directly by double-clicking on its name within Windows Explorer. This does require administrative privileges, and you will be prompted for these if you are not currently running as an administrator. So this is the Visual COBOL for Visual Studio 2010 installer. We can start that up by double-clicking on it, and we're presented with an install dialog telling us what the product name is and its version number. We're also given a default product install location. We can override this by clicking the Browse button and navigating to a new location, but it's usually best to accept the default. You can also read the end-user license agreement by clicking on this link here. And once you agree to its terms, you can click the checkbox, and then the install button opens up. Just start the installation, just click on the install button, and it will begin. Since it takes several minutes, we will not bore you with the details of that in this presentation. When it is complete, it will prompt you with a new dialog telling you that it has been completed. Okay. After it has been installed, you can then go and install any ad packs that you may have downloaded from the product update site. This one here is the compatibility ad pack, which provides dialog system support for development and for deployment. You can just double click on that and it will install in the same manner. Now that we have installed the Visual COBOL product, we can move on to step 3, licensing the Visual COBOL product. All Visual COBOL products use the SafeNet License Manager and therefore require that each product be authorized before they can be used. This is true for COBOL Server in production as well as for Visual COBOL in development. Products can be licensed in two ways. For development products like Visual COBOL, you can start the Visual COBOL product and then authorize it directly within the IDE. You can also start the Micro Focus License Manager and authorize it through that interface. For COBOL Server products, you must use the License Manager method as there is no IDE available. There are also command line utilities available to install a license silently if you need to install the product as part of your own product installation program. Let's take a look at what this process looks like. Okay, so we can start Visual COBOL from all programs under the Micro Focus Visual COBOL group. Click on Visual COBOL for Visual Studio 2010. The 2012 product will have its own group if you're using that one. The IDE comes up. If you go to select New Project and select one of the COBOL templates, if you do not have a license installed, it will prompt you with a licensing dialog shown here, and we have a couple of options. I want to activate the free product. You would use this if you're installing a Visual COBOL Personal Edition product. These are the free products that have a 1-year limited license. To activate this, all you do is put in the email address that you used during the registration process and click on Activate License, and it will automatically be activated for you. If you do not have an internet connection and you still want to activate this, you can use the manual process, and then you have to interact with the Micro Focus support line website directly in order to get your product licensed. The other option is a full version of Visual COBOL, and you can use this if you received an authorization code for a product trial or a license file for an actual purchase version of Visual COBOL. Okay, the authorization code, if you received one of those, it would be in the email, and you can see it here, and you can copy and paste that in, and then click on authorize, and it will authorize that product for you. If you received a license file instead, you can browse to it, the location. Here I saved it under VC downloads, and it has an extension of MFLIC. Okay. If we click on that and click on authorize, it'll add, it tells us that it has been added successfully. Okay, now we can go ahead and use our product. Okay, the alternative is to bring up the license manager itself. That's under a different group, Micro Focus License Manager, and you can click on License Administration. Here under the Install tab, you have the option of having a license file or a authorization code down here, and you do it in the same manner as we just showed. For this, using the license manager, you can actually use a drag and drop. So if you have the MFLIC, you can just drop it on, and it will populate that for you, and then you can click Install License. Okay, after the product is installed, you can look at what's under the group here, and the documentation's available from here as well as within the IDE. If we look at the help here under View Help, that's where you'll find the documentation. Okay, under Micro Focus, welcome. Okay, the other options, we highly recommend that you bring up the samples browser. This allows you to go through and choose some programs to look at, some samples, either native or managed code, and you can bring those up and just click on them, and you can open them up automatically in Visual Studio and run through the samples. That'll give you a good idea of how to get going with Visual COBOL. A couple other things, configuration for using Enterprise Server, data tools for setting up database connections, and command prompts, 32-bit and 64-bit. And that brings us to the end of this Visual COBOL in a nutshell presentation of installing and licensing Visual COBOL. Thank you for watching, and happy programming.